everyone. I'm Robin Farber, and I'm the Director of Event Operations and Rentals at 6th and I. Whether you're here with us in person or watching virtually from home, thank you so much for being with us tonight and for your support of a nonprofit. For anyone who's here for the first time, 6th and I is a center for arts, entertainment, ideas, and Jewish life, and by attending our programs, you help fuel our mission to inspire more meaningful and fulfilling lives. If you, like me, have ever asked yourself, why is dating in DC so hard? You're not alone. DC actually has one of the highest rates of single adults in the country. But as tonight's guest often says, dating shouldn't be a punishment, it's a privilege. I'm very excited to introduce Maria Avgitidis, who I've followed for years. Maria is a fourth-generation matchmaker, the CEO of Agape Match, an award-winning matchmaking service based out of New York City, and the host of the dating and relationship podcast, Ask a Matchmaker. We're here to celebrate her new book, Ask a Matchmaker, Matchmaker Maria's no-nonsense guide to finding love. Combining family matchmaking tradition with modern relationship psychology and behavioral science, the book is designed to help you figure out what you really want in a relationship. Filled with stories from real daters as well as Maria's own love story, the book is here to help you find the love you deserve at a time when real connection seems harder than ever. Beyond romantic relationships, Maria also encourages you to build your social muscle and engage with your community as one strategy to find your partner. But let's face it, making friends as an adult is hard. With that in mind, we may have a few tickets left to our post-event casual speed friend making downstairs. It's like speed dating, but we're willing to bet the results will be better. If you're interested, see a staff member after the event. Matchmaker Maria will be in conversation tonight with Andrew Limbong, a reporter for NPR's Arts Desk. He also hosts NPR's Book of the Day podcast and is a frequent host on NPR's Life Kit. Later in the program, we'll take some questions from you all, and you can line up at the microphones in either aisle at that time. And finally, we're in the midst of celebrating Capital Pride Month, so as you're leaving tonight, we encourage you to share your pride by snapping a picture with the Pride banner hanging down the side of our building on I Street and tag @6thandI when you post on social. Thank you again for joining us. Please help me give a warm welcome to Matchmaker Maria and Andrew Limbong.
Hello, shout out to Making It Out. What's up, guys? Hello. Give yourselves a round of applause for Making It Out. Yeah, because there's a theme in this book, and it's hard to get people out, but we're gonna get there.
We did it.
We'll get there.
We did it.
Maria, I think when I was reading your book, and a couple pages in, you kind of threw me for a loop because you say that as a modern day matchmaker, my job is to help people acknowledge and manage their loneliness and to help them find strong relationships in the process. And I think that was an interesting order. I expected it to be the other way around. Can you talk to me a little bit about what it means to manage your own loneliness and why that's sort of first in that list?
Right. Wow. I'm so surprised you caught up on that because I didn't think anyone would. He's professional.
Hell yeah. Tell my boss, all right?
Yeah. That was actually a really intentional way that I put it in the book because I don't think any person who comes to a matchmaker, be it me or any of my colleagues, is thinking that they're lonely or that they need to have their loneliness managed. But there is a reason why they're there. And we have to acknowledge, how have you been meeting people? And that is one of the intake questions for us when someone comes to us. What obstacles are you currently facing in dating? How did you hear about us? How are you currently meeting people? And a lot of the times, the answer to that is online dating. Mm-hmm. And then one of the follow-up questions that we'll have is, well, tell me more about your community. Like, when do you go out for brunch? And who do you go out with if you want to go play, I don't know, pickleball.
Bocce. I don't know.
There, yeah, we got it.
I said bocce.
And sometimes people will say, well, nobody. I don't do any of that. So it's like, wow, okay, so now we have to acknowledge that we haven't built a social circle that's conducive to us meeting new people.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is that almost everybody in this room, including both of us, our parents met through people. They did not meet by swiping on the couch alone. So we have to acknowledge that, okay, you are different than the people that came before you. And now how are you going to manage this? So what homework can I give to you that will change a little bit of your reality as we work together? Because I don't think it's fair for any person who hires a dating professional to just wait on that couch still and hope for the best. You have to do other things. And for a lot of people, online dating is certainly a tool and it can work for many people, but I think most people are really terrible at it. And so by managing that part of it, right, which means giving them a photo shoot, letting us take over, and then also creating a social calendar for them. My team will literally take over we want access to your Google Calendar, and we will start inputting like, hey, you should go to this gala. Hey, there's this wine tasting. Hey, there's this event at the 6th and I. That starts to manage that part of the loneliness to get out of it.
Yeah. Would you say, like, what are some red flags when you're doing like a client intake, being like, your loneliness is not managed?
Yeah. Like, like when do we reject a client?
Or, I don't know, I wasn't even going that far.
Every day, Andrew.
Yeah.
Every single day.
When you're like, okay, before we've, come across this journey of finding your next true love, we got to figure some other shit out. Yeah.
I don't think matchmaking is the solution for most people. Oh. And so we have to say no to a lot of people every day because I don't think a lot of people have even scratched the surface. They just want someone. You can tell when someone wants to hire a person in my space, just they can yell at them for why they're experiencing dating fatigue. Like, that's a real thing. And sometimes it's masked. We have clients where they'll hire us and they look really desirable and great. And then about 3 weeks in, despite you setting them on a great date and it was a great date, but that person doesn't want a second date with them, there's like screaming on the phone. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't, how am I? This is not helpful for me to keep thinking about you in this positive light if you're going to talk to me in this negative.
So I'm going to be like, the problem with women.
Yes, but yes, like you're joking, but that's actually a real thing that we hear. And it's not just from men, it's from women too. Women will go on these tirades as well. So I know I pronounced that word wrong.
Sorry, yeah.
Whatever.
We got it.
Sorry, English is my second language. But like that's usually what it is though, is that like we're kind of like the punching bags because we're human form. None of you are ever gonna meet the chiefs of Bumble, Hinge, or Tinder. But you get to meet me, and then it's like, we have to take in. It's really hard to be in that place. What was the question again? Where am I going with this?
The question was like red flags, where it's like,
sure.
Are you going through somebody's like social calendar, and you're like, what are you doing Thursday? And they're like, chilling at home. And
right.
What are you doing Friday?
It's rare that, but it's other things that I don't think people realize are red flags. Like, for instance, people who they want to go on dates right after like going to a conference or right after knowing that they're going to have like a busy day at work. And I'm like, you shouldn't be going on a date after all this because you're emotionally spent. This goes for both men and women. To go back to like what's a red flag for us is we can kind of tell who's exhibiting narcissistic traits, and then I'm like, I don't want to set up anyone I know with this person, like because it's a liability, right? I always count on, especially with women, because women talk, and they always talk about the 2 Ds, Andrew. Anytime the 2 women meet together, like this little friend thing that they're doing after downstairs, there's going to be women who talk about the 2 Ds, and those 2 Ds are dieting, although that's starting to go away because of Ozempic, and dating. And the moment they talk about dating,
okay, cool.
The moment they talk about dating, if they had a good experience with us, they're going to tell their friends, and then I can count on those friends wanting to work with us too.
Right.
Yeah.
There was another surprise in this book. There's a lot more critique of city planning than I expected. I was like, oh, wow, I didn't realize we were going to hold this.
Urban planning.
Yeah, there's urban design. It's like, can you talk a little bit? There's 2 parts to this question.
Yeah.
One is the past and one is the present. And one is the past is that, can you tell us a little bit about how we wouldn't have dating as we know it without the bicycle?
Yeah. Did you know that?
No. I can barely bike.
The Smithsonian is the citation here.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
So I did my work. Okay. Yeah, so if you look back at like history, United States history specifically, you're like, where does courting end and dating begin? Because those are very distinct behaviors of how we meet people. And you see that it explodes in 1890, which is 10 years after the bicycle is invented. And by bicycle invented, I mean the one with the equal wheels, not the old-timey one that you're all imagining. Women could not ride that. You saw their skirts. That's a death trap. But nonetheless, so the women that could afford to get a bicycle were afforded then to be able to congregate in public places. The suffragettes used the bicycle as their symbol to get for equal rights. I don't think this is my own theory, but white women got the right to vote before women of color. Okay, but who could afford a bicycle back then? White women. And they were congregating with other white women. So, but that's not what we're talking about now. We're talking about dating. But it goes back in line, like, okay, well then who could access a place of dating? It was the people with the bicycles. So that's shifted a lot of how we met people and new strangers and new people. Like you were no longer tasked to meeting whoever was at the church courtyard or who your parents wanted. Now you were going to college. You were going to frat parties. There were frat parties back then.
Yeah.
Different.
So the bicycle gave these women options, whereas like, how do you differentiate between courting and dating then?
So courting has to do with motive, right? So courting is the process where I know that if I meet the person that I'm being asked to meet, the intention is that we will get married in the next 3 to 5 months. So we don't have to wonder, what does this person want? We know what society is telling us, and this is what they want. Whereas with dating, you don't necessarily have to have other people's involvement, especially your parents. Now your friends are involved, but not necessarily your parents. And you can try on different people with no intention, right? You're not attached to the outcome of that experience.
I see. Interesting. And now coming to the present, how has the way our current car culture is set up kind of an impediment to dating and kind of increasing this loneliness that we were talking about before?
So it's interesting that you mentioned loneliness because we've all heard of the male loneliness epidemic. I don't know why I put it in quotes. It feels good to put it in quotes. Feels comfortable. I think what a lot of people get wrong as it pertains to the male loneliness epidemic is who is to blame. I know that there's a lot of men in the manosphere podcasts giving men microphones. Jesus, what a bad idea. Not Andrew. Andrew's at NPR, guys. Yeah, come on. NPR is different. Anyway, but what's happened is that we're blaming women because we don't want men to date like our grandfathers did. So what I think is the cause of what we're seeing now is a natural conclusion of 7, 8 decades of the nuclear family structure. The nuclear family structure was promoted to us after World War II, where all these men came back and maybe found wives or got wives, and then the society told them, hey, you're going to launch the next generation of nuclear family, no more multi-generational families. It was seen as un-American to have a multi-generational family, right? It was
like in a household.
In a household, yeah. It was seen as a symbol of poverty. It was seen as a symbol of other. I mean, in some cultures around this country, people could also call you a communist, which is the worst thing you could be called in this country back then, right? So, because who had these structures? The rest of the world. So America was trying to be different and exceptional. And what happens is that if you are promoting the nuclear family, well, what do you need? You need single-family households. You don't need to have your village in your area, in your neighborhood, right? And that coincides with highway lobbies who are saying, okay, let's build highways, let's do urban sprawl, which happens in the 60s, right? So 2 decades later, these new children of that generation, the first generation of proper nuclear family, nuclear adults, are now going into the suburbs, creating highways, creating single-family homes in half-acre properties. And that's, again, you don't see this in other Western nations, right? If you go to Barcelona, you see a town square every block in between the buildings, and that creates that community. So now we're 8 decades later, multi-generations into this sort of architecture of how we live. And then we're wondering, okay, well, all this is how our architecture and our society is, but now let's add a pandemic. Let's add that everyone works from home, or a lot of people work from home. How many of you work from home at least 3 days a week? That's the majority of this room.
Yeah.
Right? And then add in the fact that we have, so those things now contribute to social atrophy. And now let's look at the genders. Why is it that men are experiencing this more than women? Well, women, I believe, are inherently communal because of how we are structured. So many of you go get your hair done. So many of you go get your nails done. So many of you call your friends because from childhood, you've been encouraged to be a caretaker, to be communal. How many of you, raise of hands, got a kitchen set or a baby doll before you turned 5? That tells you something, right? And so with men, I don't see a lot of communal experiences unless it's tailgating, which happens maybe... That's not even a joke, right? That happens like, what, 6 times a year if you
can afford the tickets to the game, if you go to the game, yeah.
But I don't think a lot of men are going to get manicures with their friends. I don't know, yeah.
Right? I haven't, yeah.
Right, I don't think a lot of men are going to brunch, like straight men. We're talking about straight men now. And then there's also the joke of like how men communicate with each other, which is, I'm sure you've seen these like funny videos on TikTok where like a straight man is talking to his straight girlfriend, and he goes, "Oh yeah, Brad and his fiance broke up," and the woman's like, "Oh my God, what happened?" I don't know.
Bro, it's not
like,
it doesn't come up. I don't know. We don't end up talking about it. Okay.
But what I'm saying is, so you have this systemic issue that's coinciding with our reality of social atrophy because of public health problems and technology, and then we're wondering, oh, why do men feel lonely? And it's like, how do we bring them into the conversation? How do we help them build empathy? How do we let them experience all of the emotions that God gave them that we suppress when they were kids because of how our society is built? Yeah. Wow, we went really theoretical.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
I'm going to leave the fellas alone for a second and move on to...
Not all men.
Yeah, not all men. Maria, what is a date? Is texting dating? Is Zoom dating? Is like a nice long email? Is that a date? Like, what are we talking about? When we're talking about dating, what are we talking about?
So, in my eyes, a date is where we can spend enough time with each other to share 1% of our vulnerability together about how our emotions were that day or how we're feeling. And to me, that is a minimum of 20 minutes of either a phone date, a video date, or an in-person date. Audio messages do not count. Texting does not count, which I know for a fact that half of this room accidentally fell in love with someone via text before meeting them, and then you were like, nope. And I get that, but that's not dating. So in the clear, I suppose, but stop wasting your time texting people that you don't know. Those are strangers.
Yeah.
Meet in person as quick as possible. Get them on FaceTime within 30 minutes.
I was actually surprised that you counted like a FaceTime or a Zoom as dating in the, and we'll get to this later, in the 12 date, hierarchy.
12 date rule.
Was that something that you had to sort of begrudgingly acquiesce to? Sort of just like, were you like just like in person is where it's at, and then it's like, okay, in the current society, we have to settle for a Zoom date? Or do you think you can actually get genuine connection from something like shout out Zoom, I guess? I don't know, from a Zoom date?
I want you to know that I created the 12 date rule when Skype was in.
Oh, shout out Skype. I don't know what happened, dude, but shout out Skype, yeah.
But 12 date rule was invented in 2011. And by the way, do we have any 12 date rule brides in here? No, because I've got stickers for you.
We got one hand. We got one hand. We got one hand.
You got one hand?
It looked begrudging.
Down.
Someone
Come
said.
And get one. Oh, I know her too. I love it. Hi. Here you go.
Shout out.
And in 1 year, you'll be asking me for stickers, and I'll have a lot more to give out. All right. I came up with this in 2011, and the reason why, to answer to your question of like, why does it constitute a date, is because if you spend time with someone on the phone for at least 20 minutes, you do start to talk about how your day went and how you felt during that date. And the whole purpose of the 12-date rule is to discover what are they like when they're having a bad day and what are they like when they're having a good day. And you can discover also, people will reference their past on those conversations when they had a bad day. So they could be having a good day that day, but you can learn about like 2 weeks ago at work, there were layoffs and I just got really frustrated and upset and sad. And it's like, oh, and how did you handle that? And what did you do? And did you go out to a bar? Like, you can learn more about that person. If you look at most people's phones, I know like people on the online like to make fun of me when I say this, but that's okay. They're not here. But most people do not talk to people for more than 7 minutes on the phone. So 20 minutes minimum is a choice. Like, you actually want to talk to them on the phone. And I think with FaceTime, especially if it's your first date, especially if you're a single parent, I don't want you spending money on a babysitter to go meet a stranger, because this is a lot for the internet, right? So I'd rather you do a quick FaceTime, check if the vibe is okay before we invest in, Jessica coming over to babysit.
Do you recommend that's the first thing?
What?
Like a FaceTime Zoom thing, like before you meet IRL?
If you're over 35, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Sorry.
Oh, shut up. Well, why are you sorry? I mean, like, I know friends of mine who do that for like safety, so that they do like a Zoom to get like a vibe check first before they meet like in person.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I guess so. I don't know.
I feel like people that are 25 have more stamina.
That's true. I mean, yeah.
Like, I get it. I'm 40 now, and I'm like, ugh.
Just got to be in bed by 10:30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to go out and meet people, right?
No, that's the opposite of we should be.
Yeah. No, but that's the thing. Like, I think a lot of people, if you happen to be single at 35 and over, it's like, you got to be better than a phone call. So, like, there is this sort of pressure to perform, and it's like, well, do I want to perform? Do I want to put on my good makeup? Before I go out.
Yeah. I want to talk about either like widening or narrowing the sort of aperture in looking for a partner. The funniest story in this book is the one you tell of the dude.
The Gemini.
Oh no, I was gonna say the dude who specifically who only dates Jewish women. And the funny thing about this is he's not Jewish. He's not Jewish. He's like South Asian.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I was like, what a weird thing, dude. I mean, like, not that it was like, it's just like a very like I only want. I was like, okay, dude, calm down, brother. And so you had to convince him to sort of like open his sort of like boundaries,
which is really making him closed.
Yeah.
Because like, open your boundaries. Date women like you.
Yeah. Date all their. Yeah.
So if you don't know, all the stories are true in my book, and a lot of them got cut out too, just because we're running out of paper. But there was a South Asian man who hired us. He was divorced. He had 2 kids with his ex-wife, who happened to be a Jewish woman.
Did I miss that? But he had 2 kids. Golly. Oh wow. Okay. Sorry, I was like, oh.
They had 2 kids, and in his mind, when he came in, he's like, I only want to date Jewish women to have some consistency for my kids. And I was just like...
I guess that makes more sense. I thought this guy was just like, I got a thing.
I've had clients whose type is Jewish women.
Yeah, but I was just like,
okay, yeah. Everyone has, I suppose, a type. But yeah, it was for his kids, for continuity. I think that was the word I used, which is such a weird thing to say. And, look, the moment you hire a matchmaker, it's my job to measure your wish list against a reality check. And not every client cares about the reality check. They got to go through their wish list a little bit. And that's what I did. I was like, all right, let's find some Jewish women in New York who want to date a South Asian man. And I did. There was a lot of Jewish women in New York who are open to dating outside of their race and religion. And, we sat on dates, and the feedback was always the same. Oh, she doesn't really get me. oh, we see the world in different ways. He was an immigrant to the United States. He grew up in a different country. He came here when he was, 20 years old to do his master's and PhD or whatever. So, so finally, like, I think 4 months into the contract, I was like, okay, enough. Like, can I just do my job now and I can hear your feedback. It's very clear to me you want someone who shares in your culture. And he's like, no, I don't know. It'll be like, I'm going to say something that I know a lot of people have said in this room. I can't date someone who has my race and religion. It'll be like dating my sister. And I'm like, all right, shut up.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that in here? Anyway, and he finally let me do it. And guess what? Within the first match, he was like, she's amazing. She knows the music I like. She likes the food I like. And I'm like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Who would have thought? Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. But what about the opposite end? When are differences like too different?
Can you be more specific?
Like, how do you know a difference is insurmountable?
So I feel like anytime someone, and this goes for you and your friends, anytime someone gives you something on their no-no list, you need to ask them, like, well, where does that come from? So for instance, I'll hear from a lot of Jewish people, for instance, or, Jewish people. They'll be like, they have to be Jewish. And especially if they're Jewish women, because from what I've heard, Judaism you can still have Jewish kids if the mom is Jewish, right? That is the, okay. So I'll be like, well, why does he have to be Jewish? And I'm not trying to disagree with them. I'm just trying to understand like how important this is to them. And some people will say, well, I'm Jewish. I want my partner to be Jewish because I want to raise our kids Jewish, and I don't want to have to debate about this, discuss it, whatever. I'm kosher, or I go to synagogue, or I celebrate the high holidays. This is what I want. Aces. But then you'll hear from some people who are like, I don't participate in my faith. I just want them to be Jewish because I have a loud family, and we have family dinners. And I'm like, you just said the plot of My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yeah.
Like, Jewish people don't have the monopoly of overbearing parents. We all share this for the most part. And it's like once you say that to them, and because I will say it like that, that's the delivery, it's like a light bulb moment for someone. It's like, oh my God. Oh, no, so I just want someone family oriented. And I'm like, yeah. And then suddenly it blows up like what they're looking for. Like there's no more constraints. And that feels really good. But, you still have to go back to like when it's too different. It's like, what are your familial expectations? And what are your expectations? Because some people might not fit into that.
Have you noticed in your clientele, as you've been doing this for a while, the no-no lists being more, or more politics invading the no-no lists?
Yeah. The politics is the number one deal breaker.
Oh, really?
Number one. And it has not gone away for 9 years.
Is that a change? Like, is there like an X year where you can be like, oh, wow, look at that?
Yeah, 2016. Hold on.
I feel like I could have guessed that answer.
There's more to this. I know you're laughing and you think you know, but you don't know. So I got married in the summer of 2016. And I thought someone else was going to win that year, yeah? I think a lot of us in this room. Anyway, and I was on my honeymoon on a cruise ship in the Mediterranean, and the New York Times calls, and they're like, we would like a quote from you for an article publishing on the Sunday Styles. And I'm like, what? So I'm paying $140 just to get a phone plan for 5 minutes to talk to the New York Times. I remember this because I had the receipt. And business expense.
Yeah.
Anyway, they contact me and they're like, what do you think about what's happening in the environment, politics, dating? And this is a quote in the New York Times. I said, God, I can't wait for the election to be over so people can stop talking about politics when they meet with me. Because I've been around as a matchmaker since George W. Bush was president. So I remember what it was like when Barack Obama got elected. I remember what it was like when he ran against Mitt Romney. And sure, there were some people that were conservative and some people that were liberal. And sure, there were certainly people who didn't want to date across aisles. But it was nothing like what I was experiencing in 2016. And at that time, before the election happened, it was not by the left-leaning liberals. It was by my Trump-supporting clients. So I was having Trump supporters come in every day saying, I'm a Trump supporter and I want to date only Trump supporters. And I'm like, I don't even know how to find that right now. Like, the election hasn't even happened. So it was just very confusing. And that's why I was just like, I'm so exhausted by this. Let it be over and we can go back to not talking about politics and dating. Stupid. I manifested this. It was.
Yeah, you did it.
I
You
did
made
it.
it. You
It's
made
my
it happen.
fault
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton lost. It's not Wisconsin.
Sure. Are the is it that partisan, or do you think, or have you been getting a lot of like issue-based stuff? It's like, I don't really care who you vote for in like state senator, but it's like when it comes to like abortion, like I need them to agree here. Da, da, da.
So the politics deal breaker has certainly shifted 2 more times, but now it's I think in the 3rd time, which is a little bit of what my book goes into. And it's funny because I put the manuscript like a year ago, and I'm like, oh, I guess it still applies. So the first, after the Trump deal breaker, it started to shift up a public health deal breaker. So I started even getting Republicans in New York saying they better be getting the vaccine or I'm not interested, or they better not be getting the vaccine or I'm not interested. And to the latter, we never took them as clients. Like, we would get people who were like, I don't want anyone vaccinated. And I'm like, not even MMR?
Yeah.
Like, that's weird.
I love mumps.
Yeah. It's like vintage.
Yeah.
Okay. Could you imagine someone gets like whooping cough and they can't go on your date? It's so silly. And then in the summer of 2021, I will never forget it. I remember saying to my staff, "Oh my God, watch women's access to healthcare become the deal breaker," and it immediate. And I was even getting conservative women saying, he needs to be cool with me, because this is New York conservative women who think that their vote doesn't matter. So they vote however, without thinking that it's like a total package. And that total package is what we see right now in the Supreme Court. So there was a situation now where I'm having to teach. I never thought this would be my job, but I do spend a significant amount of my week teaching men what abortion is, which is health care. That should get a clap. What the heck?
Yeah. I like the answer.
And trying to explain to men that, like, you know, I was trying to have kids and I discovered I was pregnant at 7 weeks. Like, I was peeing on a stick trying to have a kid and I found out at 7 weeks. So when you have like 8-week bans, that's, you know, because there are men who will say this to me, like, I'm okay with abortion as long as it happens before 8 weeks. And I'm like, you shut up. You know, like, now I have to be a health teacher? Like, who said this was part of my job? Now, the current deal breaker right now, and this is referenced in my book, is reality. So we can say it's politics. It's funny that what's funny.
Yeah, it's funny.
Because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this is my reality. What is the #1 deal breaker right now is reality, and we equate this to politics. We equate this to our moral compass. But the fact of the matter is there was a time when people got their news through NPR on the radio, not digitally, or they opened up the TV and they saw Walter Cronkite, or maybe Barbara Walters, or, you know, those 3 channels of news, and some of you are old enough to remember that. And as a result, we were all on the same page of what is the current reality of our country. Now, each of you might have different solutions to those problems, but at least we could agree on what that problem is. But now we are in a situation, a lot of it in DC, where depending on her algorithm and her algorithm and their algorithm and his algorithm, everyone has different news source, right? If you get your news from Aaron Parnas, I don't know if you know who that is, okay, versus, I don't know, like the Flagrant podcast. I love that no one knows who that is.
Yeah, shout out Andrew Schultz. Yeah, I got you.
No, but like if you're getting your news from different things, Joe Rogan, like some people, that's where they get their news from. I mean, I remember I was talking to a gentleman who asked me who he should vote for back in November. And I was like, I love it. Yes. But I asked him before I gave him a response, I said, where do you get your news from? And he said, X. And I was like, wow. When he goes, where do you get your news from? And I go, the Washington Post. the New York Times and PR, like, and he goes, well, when do you have time? And I go, I make time. This is my reality. What are you talking about? But he had no idea, like, based on X, what was happening. Because that's your algorithm. And your algorithm, by the way, be it TikTok, Instagram, your online dating app, they want you to be single. They want you busy. They want you to be single because that's how they make money.
They want you doom scrolling. They want you
doom scrolling. They want your thumbs. You know what happens when people get into a relationship? They have kids. And then you know what? They're doing less scrolling.
Some of them. I've seen some parents be a little wild out here.
I don't know, man. YouTube Kids doesn't have ads.
That's true, yeah. And
I got rid of YouTube Kids, though, for my kid's iPad.
Oh, true. Okay, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that later. Yeah, we'll talk about it a bit.
They were changing.
Yeah. So I'm like 36, and I find that a lot of people in my age cohort start clock watching. You know, they're like, especially if they're women, especially if they're planning on having kids or want to have kids.
Oh, biological.
They're like, oh shit, yeah, fuck it, and then add in like certain types of like parents influence, like you got to get married now, which then leads them to be like, this is a good guy, right? And I'm like, brother, no, dog, you gotta chill. So how do you? But then I understand the sort of like panic behind, be like, oh, I gotta. How do you advise clients on managing the clock and not, thinking about like the sunk cost fallacy? It's like, we've already been dating for 17 years. I should marry this, or whatever. I don't know. 17.
My answer is going to be really controversial, and I acknowledge that some of you are going to heavily disagree with me, and that's okay. We don't have to agree on everything. But if a woman comes into my office that's over 35, I just ask them like, well, how important is it to you to have a kid? And they'll say, it's really important. It's really, if I really want this. And then I'll say, well, have you ever thought about doing it on your own? Motherhood by choice is what that's called. Mm-hmm. And some people will be like, absolutely not. I want to raise it with a man or a woman or whatever. Someone. And I'll say, okay, then we got to get on it. Like, you clearly want a 2-parent household. I don't want you to panic buy, because then you're going to choose the worst co-parent ever. Some love bomber, narcissistic abuser is going to leave your kids alone. Some of you are totally triggered by what I just said, and I'm sorry for your trauma. But there's other women, more often than not, who are open to that conversation. And I do have a community of women who have done motherhood by choice, who, like, I have like a little WhatsApp group of them. And I'll say, can I add you to this WhatsApp group of these women who are motherhood by choice, so you can meet them and talk to them and ask them questions. There's also a Facebook group, it's not mine, but I can introduce you to people who have done this, and they can tell you the pros and cons and like what you need before you do this. And I think it is my understanding that there are some really great single dads in their 40s, but they're not interested in having more kids. They're interested in Brady bunching, which is, for those who are too young to know what that means. There are people who don't know what that means. It means that you have a kid, I'm a parent with a kid, and you're a parent with a kid, and we're going to put it together. And I've met those people, and they're like, I would love to meet a single mom. I don't want to meet a single person who wants to have kids. So there's a huge population of these people, but you also, like, I have to have those conversations every single day, and so do many of my colleagues in the industry. Yeah. That's why I keep saying, like, matchmaking might not be the right route for you. It might be talking to people who want to give you the vision of the future that you want.
Yeah, interesting. I've got one more question, but if there's any people in the audience who want to like start lining up for an audience questions, don't be scared. Also, ask a question. Don't be weird. I don't. You know the game, right? Just like ask a nice question. You can start lining up or whatever. Don't all rush at once. Da da da. You mentioned Brady bunching, and I'm curious first off, I was like, wow, I can't believe that's a Wash reference now, but I guess it is. But how has the media that we all consume influence how we perceive dating should go?
Can you believe you're the first person to ask me that in this whole media tour?
Again, tell my boss, bro. Come on, dude. Let's do this.
This is my favorite thing to talk about, and nobody has asked me about this.
Really?
It's like upsetting.
Oh my goodness.
Who here has been personally victimized by Zach Morris's timeline?
Listen. He's the one. He's Indonesian.
I know. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, I gotta get.
Do you
Shout
know
out
that
Zach
Zach Morris is half Indonesian? He's just been whitewashed. Oh.
Oh yeah.
Anyway.
So there's some colonialism involved. Don't worry about it. We'll talk about it later.
So for the show that I think had the most impact, I was very young when when Saved by the Bell was out, and you're younger than me, so geez, I mean, you probably just saw the reruns. I remember happening at live. Do you remember the summer work job edition at the hotel?
Yes. Was it Leia Rem?
Elite, yes.
Leia Rem. Right? It was Leia
Elite
Rem.
television.
Yeah.
I get so upset that I was like, this could have been its own thing. Anyway. But the show that I think had the biggest impact on me and how I saw future relationships, not just me, an entire generation of women, it's twofold. It's Boy Meets World, where we are presented with this stunningly beautiful, extremely smart girl, Topanga, who dates, Corey. What did they say?
Wow. Yeah, Corey Matthews. Yeah,
Corey
shout out
Matthews.
I don't know why I pulled that out.
Yeah. And he wants, I don't know, he's going to state school and she's supposed to go to Stanford or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's presented as normal. This is a perfectly normal thing for a woman to do because now they're going to get married. Now they're going to buy a house at $86,000. What? And I remember the impact that had on me when I went to college, 5 years later, where I was like, okay, the first man I date, that's my husband. Meanwhile, that guy over there, I talk about this in my book, he was Greek. They don't have shows like that in Greece. They have Saved by the Bell, but that's Americanisms. Mm-hmm. Much in the way Baywatch is Americanisms and MacGyver is Americanisms. So it's Americana, that's how they call it. So they didn't see it as real life. If you look at any high school student in Greece, their eyes are bleeding from studying so hard because they're going to university, and university's free there, but you got to get the best scores to go. So it's a culture anyway. No one's getting in relationships. You're not allowed to have a boyfriend when you're in high school, right? So it's just so him and me and him meeting in college was shocking because I was like, oh my gosh, you haven't been raised thinking that at 22 I need to have the husband, by 24 start popping kids. And I don't think it helps right now. I swear to God, if you cancel me for saying her name, okay? But Nara Smith, do you know who that is? But some of you do. Nara Smith is a 23-year-old woman who is Mormon, and she's married to a beautiful man who was a single dad. And at the age of 18, they got married, and now she's pregnant with her fourth kid at the age of 23, 24. Some of you didn't even know she was pregnant with her fourth kid. Huh? And she promotes her modeling career, but also her and Ballerina Farm promote this sort of trad wife experience, right? And they're, as a 40-year-old woman, I can recognize what this is. This is marketing. This is the new Joanna and her husband. Thank you. I love that you know the references. Magnolia. Do you know Magnolia? You don't watch enough HGTV before the pandemic? Anyway, but that's what that is, right? But if you look in the comments, there's a lot of women under the age of 23 who say, you're living my life. This is my dream. I would love to be married by 22. I would love to have kids by 24. And then if you say, well, this is a little young to be having this many kids in 2025, how dare you? She has her own money. And I'm like, yeah, that's not your frontal lobe is not developed. Mm-hmm. I'm not even talking about money, So that is being promoted to that's the new Topanga.
Yeah. That's
the new Jessie Spano. And I don't want to, this is not my thinking, but if anyone here read Kate Kennedy's book, Once in a Millennial, anyone? It's a good book. But in that book, she talks about the damage that A.C. Slater's character did to smart women everywhere by how he attacked Jessie Spano with his misogyny throughout every single episode. And what does that do to women when they grow up, right? And how does that help when you see, for instance, there's a direct line between Jessie Spano being attacked by A.C. Slater's character in 1993 to AOC being attacked today by our current president. It's the same thing. And in the middle of that, from 1993, what happens in 94? Friends is created. And what happens in Friends? The one smart character, the paleontologist, every plot point is making fun of him being a smart person. So we're in this,
Anti-intellectualism.
Anti-intellectualism. And it starts from there, and it's here. And I think that's like shocking. As period. That's it. I'm going too much into this. And there's someone who has a question I feel about. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, is it on?
Oh, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Hi. My name is Jasmine. I'm excited to be here. Nice to see you. I have a question. You talked about access and financial stability and dating. So what I'm thinking about is, I'll say personally, I won't speak for everybody, that sometimes I feel like I'm priced out of love. I've done matchmaking. It's expensive. I'm currently facing government furlough type of potential layoff situation, so I'm gathering my coins. I've also, I follow your Eventbrite advice, so I'll pay money to go to events. I do a singles event a month, and I go do what I want to do, and I play my Volvo sports, and I'm fine with investing money, right, in my future. However, sometimes it feels like there's a barrier to dating because of capitalism.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for those of us who are frustrated? And I'm doing well, adult, have my job and that, but for those of us who are facing kind of these difficult times in our current climate with finances and stability with our jobs, and also looking for love, because I don't want to be priced out of love, right?
Yeah. Stan, let me talk to you. What's your name?
I'm Jasmine.
Jasmine. Okay. So Jasmine, I just want you to know that your question is, I've heard it from both genders and all sexualities. So what I'm going to give you is a very inclusive answer, and it's going to be an answer that you're going to get frustrated with because it's going to take a lot of effort, right? I completely understand when you get priced out of dating or that the investment just seems like a lot. So now we're going to have to invest in our time in a different way where we start to bring people to our table. We're going to be physically bringing people to our table. So I'm going to give you some advice that I gave to a friend of mine who is, I'll talk about him for a second. He's a 44-year-old man who lives in LA, Jewish, wants to date a Jewish woman, if you know anyone. And but I gave him the same advice, and I'm going to give you this advice too. I told him, Jewish people, they have Shabbos, right? This is not, again, family dinners, friend dinners. It's not monopolized by one religion. But that's what you're going to be doing from now on. For the next 8 weeks, you're going to be hosting friend of a friend dinners at your house or at a friend's house. You can find friends to host. But instead of doing the weekly book club, now we're doing the weekly supper club, right? And it doesn't have to be out at a restaurant. It could be in your home and everyone brings a dish. But the point is that everyone has to bring a friend, right? And this is where it's going to take a lot of work because your initial friends are going to say no, right? Especially your best friends. But we don't care about the best friends. What we care about is the new friends on the way. Friends, maybe a coworker, maybe someone you meet today, right? I'm sure there's going to be 2 women who will come up to you and say, I would love to host a supper club. You host the first one, I'll host the next week. And we have to bring a new friend that's, let's say, the opposite gender, same sexuality, I'm assuming. In your case, I don't want to make assumptions, of course. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to create a supper club where we get to meet new people and be part of our community because what that does is it creates the conversation, it makes it accessible, and it's actually a lot more fun. I just want to say that even myself, with the person that I met, the people that introduced me to my spouse, I only met them 3 months before. I only hung out with them 2 times before, right? But I still felt enough trust to be like, hey, you seem cool. Next time you're out with your friends, you have to invite me now. We've had dinner twice. I don't think it's too much to ask for you to bring me out with your friends next time you're out. And I think that actually becomes a more intentional practice. And it's not Eventbrite, it's not Meetup, it's not a dating app, it's literally how your parents met.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah. So that's your challenge now. You got to meet 2 people today.
Sorry, what'd you say?
That's your challenge now. You got to meet 2 people.
I'm sitting over there. You can come find me.
Great, we're going to have a go.
Hi. My name is Amy, and when I was 40, I decided, like you mentioned, right, to kind of separate what had always been one dream of marriage and children and allow it to take 2 paths, and I became a choice mom. And I have a 7-year-old, and I always thought I'd get back to dating later when I had more time, right? So what I find now is that I thought it would be easy to find the divorced dads of 40 who wanted to Brady Bunch, but the fathers in my age bracket who had their kids at younger ages, in their 30s or so, have an eye on empty nesting at this point, right? The ones in the same age bracket have kids who are between 15 and 18-year-olds, and my 7-year-old. The idea of doing all of that again is so far beyond anything that they're interested in, right? They want to get on their boat, they want to sail into retirement. So do you see women who did choose this choice mom path and are looking at getting back to dating now, considering larger age differences, younger men, or how do you see that kind of evolving?
Let me flip it in a different way, because I hear what you're saying. I don't need 100 men to be into you. I just need one. It's just one person.
Yeah.
So yes, of course, there's going to be men who you're experiencing right now who they want to be empty nesters in 3 years. I accept that reality for you. But we're just looking for one guy. I don't need all the men to be in the same life as you. But there is going to be one person who might be in the age that you're looking for, who is probably in the things. There's also people who might have 15-year-olds who are okay with you being with a 7-year-old, right? So I don't want to generalize everybody because of like 2 or 3 experiences or 5 experiences or 10 experiences, because it's about that one person who's not in that, right? However, I do see an openness to age. I'm okay with the 10-year personally. If my chief operating officer was on the stage, she'd be like, 12 years,
Like 12 years younger?
You could, hey girl, if you want to, but
Oh my God.
remember we said stamina?
Yes.
But I'm saying 12 years older. But talk about stamina.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. Yeah, dude.
Listen, you know what? That's actually a new trend that we're seeing too, where, I'm not seeing it in my office, but I'm hearing about it, because matchmaking world and real world are 2 different planets. But I am seeing a trend from a lot of women who are saying, like, all these younger guys want me. And I'm like, okay, like, they go to therapy? Do they go to therapy? I don't know. Be open-minded. But the mindset is, it's just one person.
Right.
I don't need every experience. It's like when you go on like 5 bad dates through Hinge, and then one day you meet someone and you met them online as well and it worked out, and you're like, well, I guess it couldn't all be bad. One of them has to work out, right? And that's the mindset we have to have here. I will tell you something, just from a different way, okay? I used to not want to date Greek men. I'm Greek American, that's how I identify. And then when I moved back from Greece to America when I was 23, all the Greek American men that I met, I was like, ooh, not for me. And I was like very intentional of not dating anyone Greek and just thinking, oh, I'll just convince a German man to become Greek Orthodox Christian. Easy task, right? But for all of the Greek American men that I met, that doesn't mean like, I never thought to myself, well, I'm going to end up marrying a Greek. It was just not part of it. I knew that I was looking for one person who was cool with this. And I did meet someone, and he happened to be Greek. Right. And that's what it is, right? It's like you're just looking for one person. I don't need to be a match for everybody. I'm not going to be a match for everybody. You're not going to be a match for everyone, right? And I'm happy, by the way, that you became a mom because you wanted to be a mom. I think that's awesome.
Hi, my name's Chelsea. You might not have an answer to this, which is fine, but I have been mostly online dating and will experience like the dating fatigue and stop and then go back on. It's a cycle. With men that I like and go on dates with, like a lot of the time you'll have men who want to text you forever and ever and ever, even if you've been on a couple dates. And do you have advice for like how long you wait for that person to be like, okay, let's go on our 3rd date? I just don't know. Why do men do that?
Okay. Listen, okay, so yeah.
In backstage, Andrew actually pointed out that you said only one heteronormative thing, and she just talked about it. That's it. That's what it is. So I fundamentally believe I've yet to have a straight man prove me wrong. But if a guy does not ask you out within the first 3 days, and I'm being generous, within the first 36 hours of your first date, he's not interested.
So why do they even bother engaging with you? It's
God.
not like you're engaging with them.
Honey, they want sex from you 5 weeks from now.
Fair enough.
They want to sleep with you. But they also want to lower your expectations. I'm clearly not boyfriend material. That's what it is. And
That's so disappointing.
it is disappointing. And what you can do is you can throw the confused text. I do talk about this in my book as well. I give you the script. But essentially, you're going to say, if you're texting each other after first date, but he's yet to ask you out, because men know the rules. Men know the rules. All right? If he is yet to ask you out, you're going to say, hey, I had a really great time on our first date. Are you going to ask me out on a second date? I'm confused. When is that happening? Right? And just rip the Band-Aid off. If he's not interested, let him say that so you can, okay, great, bye, block. I don't want you texting this person. Just because you went on a first date with someone doesn't mean you owe them anything.
I mean, even like multiple dates, and then it's just like the dates are very far in between each other, or...
So this is Chelsea, right?
Yeah.
So if you have an expectation in dating, I want you from now on to communicate. I love that you said, you might not have an answer to this. Oh, yes, I have an answer for this. I will always have an answer to this. It is, if you have an expectation in terms of communication, it is your job to communicate that second, third date, when that stupid question comes up in dating, why didn't it work out with your last person? Let me tell you why. Because when I'm dating someone, I feel more comfortable when we communicate every single day. I prefer FaceTime or phone call over texting, but if we don't have time to FaceTime or phone call, I would love a text. Nothing makes me happier than getting a funny meme or a link to a podcast you heard on the way to work, or reading an article that you found interesting. I want to have constant communication with the person that I'm dating because it makes me feel acknowledged and not confused, and it also eliminates my anxiety. How about you? What do you like? How do you want to feel acknowledged and communicated? What I just said, by the way, is not unreasonable. If I said this, if we were both single, Andrew, and I said this to you, I've literally just given you the cheat sheet on how to date me. So now what is he going to do? I would hope the next day when you're listening to NPR Book of the Day.
Sure. I mean, yeah.
Maybe a humble brag.
Yeah, but sorry, but like a not shit guy would be like, I don't know. You know, yeah, but yeah, I understand. Where did she learn her secrets?
Yeah.
Oh no.
But that's what it is, right? Like, I'm sorry, it's not unreasonable. I think that's what the problem is, that all of us, for some reason, think, am I being unreasonable? It's not unreasonable to tell someone what you want. And it's not needy to ask for someone to communicate with you every day. And if you want, you can bring in their mother. Your mother wants this from your father. Why would I be any different? Don't say it in that tone.
I don't know what emoji conveys that, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't. Don't even do an emoji. Just you have to say it. And I think it's okay to say it on a first date. This is why I like walking dates over any other kind of date. I know half of TikTok wants to cancel me for saying this, but let me tell you something. We set up 300 walking dates in 2020 because of the pandemic. We couldn't put anyone. I mean, the glass igloos were really expensive. Okay, and I gotta pay for that now. So we set up 300 walking dates, and 200 of them went on second dates, right? But what's happening on a walking date? You don't have to look at someone straight in the eye, especially when they're off the internet. That's a stranger, right? And you can move your body naturally, and your pinkies can kind of touch, like Bridgerton style, you know? Normal people. And that's traumatic. Don't ever watch that show. And have you seen Normal People?
Don't worry, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
There's a lot of fingers in Bridgerton, too, that are doing wild shit, yeah.
So, but you can also have these very vulnerable conversations without having to look someone in the eye, which is like, you know, here's what would make me feel really happy in a relationship. And the thing is, if someone wants to make you happy, and let me tell you, men know when they want to make you happy on date one. They want you to tell them what would make you happy. And it's such a foolproof method, because if they don't meet the expectation you've simply set for them, great, that's not the guy. Goodbye. Look at this, it's a man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So validating to have a man next to me. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we have a few time.
Yeah, I got time for like, I think 1 or 2 more. So
okay. Let's get these 3.
Oh.
Hi, my name is Erin.
sorry.
Sorry.
Let's go with you first. Sorry, you've been waiting for a minute. Sorry, my bad. And then you go next.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. Hi, thank you so much for being here. My name is Brandy. My question is a little bit similar to Jasmine's, but from a different lens, I think. For me, and I think probably many women in this room, matchmaking feels like a luxury item, right?
It is.
Maybe something that we can afford, but it's, do I do that or buy that adorable YSL I've been wanting for years, right? And so that coupled with a comment you made earlier, which is matchmaking isn't for everyone. Who is matchmaking for? When do we need to make that leap of getting off the apps and maybe putting a little bit of money behind this lifelong goal that we have that's really important to us?
It's a great question. I don't think matchmaking is for everyone if you expect a matchmaker to be a Starbucks barista with a secret menu and asking for an order like that. And the fact of the matter is that a lot of women, regardless of sexuality, they do treat, when they pay, when money is exchanged, it does turn into that. 9 out of 10 times it's, well, now that I've paid you, he needs to be this height, this head of hair, this amount of money. And I'm like, whoa. And that's where I start to get scared. What I think we need to do is treat matchmakers, like if you were to come to me, there's other things I can offer you as a matchmaker. And a lot of people don't want to have that conversation. So when I think about matchmaking, I think about my grandparents, right? Because I get that benefit. I'm a 4th generation matchmaker. I get to think about them. And they were community builders, right? Which meant that during war-torn times, they got to invite people to their table. They got to teach people, okay, you're going to do this, or this is a good match, or here's a matchmaking. And I feel like for a lot of people, when they come hire a matchmaker, we get these phone calls every day where we say to them, listen, I don't think the product matchmaking is for you, but here's another different kind of investment that you could do that I think would be in benefit. And 9 out of 10 times, what we're hearing from women is, no, I called you specifically for matchmaking. And I'm like, well, that's a waste of money. That for you, I don't have the person you're looking for, or I don't trust that you're going to maintain what you asked for on day 1, on day 3, day 4, day 5, when we start working on it, because I've been burned a lot, right? And I think who matchmaking is for people who understand that this is a collaborative process, that I can only set you up with people that I have access to, and that you're going to have to help me a little bit in that access as well, right? I want to set you up, but if I'm going to, let's say there's another woman, okay, if I go to you, I'm so sorry, what's your name? Brandy. If I go to Brandy, hey, Brandy, I'm trying to set up this other woman, and here's some men that she's interested in. And then I'll ask Jennifer or Chelsea, here's the men that I'm looking for Brandy. And it's like, I can now be like a little bit of a middle person here in terms of like acquiring different people from different communities to possibly set you up with. But a lot of people don't want that. A lot of people, as a new movie that just came out will depict, really come in with thinking that we are magicians. And we're not. I can't invent people out of thin air. I also can't force them to go on a date with you. And I'm not saying, don't take you personally, right? It's plural. And I think that's where matchmakers tend to be like, oh, I don't know if this is for me. I mean, I get frustrated with my male clients too. It's not just women. Men do this. The difference is that I have more access to women because I'm a girl's girl and y'all love me. So it's easier for me to do that. And I know it comes off as sexist, but it's not on purpose. It's not malicious. I have other products that are way more effective, higher success rate. It's funny because I think back to when we took predominantly women as matchmaking clients, the majority, like 90% of our women got married through us. And yet, I would still tell you that our other programs have a higher success rate because I know the amount of work. So if you are thinking about doing an investment in a dating professional, talk to us so we could tell you what that investment is. There's a whole person's job at my team. His name is Louis Felix. His entire job is talking to women to determine what the right program is based on what they want or the lifestyle that they have. And it might not be matchmaking, it might be something else, but that's what you have to accept. And sometimes it's better to spend that money not on the YSL bag, but on a trip to Greece or Germany or Iceland or Egypt or Morocco with other people, like a group trip, where you get to meet other people and have a vulnerable, fun experience than doing that. I appreciate your question.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. How are you doing?
We have just about 5 minutes if we can briefly take these last 3 questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Boom, boom.
I'll go quicker.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm a screenwriter, and grew up as millennials on a lot of rom-coms.
Yeah.
And they haven't been good because they're trying to bring them back recently.
Yeah. Yeah, terrible.
You're the subject matter expert. What do you think should be seen? Because a lot of the older ones were a little toxic when you examine what's going on.
What's your favorite one?
The 2005 Pride and Prejudice.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. My favorite romantic, I'm not saying this because I'm in DC, okay? But my favorite romantic comedy is The American President. And what I love about The American President is that it's in the female gaze, right? Sydney, is she a lobbyist, a consultant, whatever, lobbyist? She's not an object of desire. Like, she doesn't exist just to make the president look like a man. Oh, the irony. And then, but she is like her own person with her own thoughts, right? And then similarly, like, it's kind of fun to watch a widowed president try to date again. Like, the whole premise of the movie is amazing. Is your question what I would do different in a rom-com now?
Yeah, keep it funny but not toxic.
I really think it's about, I think it has to be about not toxic, huh? Because there's a lot of, like, you've got mail. I can't, there's no other way to say it, okay? Were you in that? Were you alive when that was happening?
I saw it.
You saw it? Okay. I experienced it. But You've Got Mail is like the creepy, it's so good, but it's creepy, right? I think rom-coms, there is a formula to rom-coms. And the formula of rom-coms is to make it incredibly relatable. This is why My Big Fat Greek Wedding is so relatable across all nationalities that are not WASP. It's true, I'm sorry. Like, WASP is considered the dominant culture in this country. Meanwhile, like, all of us have the most overbearing parents who are super emotional and don't know how to do conflict resolution correctly. How many of you had parents who, like, solved every single fight in the household with food?
Yeah.
All right. So the first thing I think the formula has to be relatable. The person writing it has to believe in love. That's like that minimum. I don't think Celine Song's movie does. I don't think she believes in love in the new movie. I swear to God, if this goes on the newspaper tomorrow, I'll be so upset.
Celine Song hates love.
I mean, it was already.
I'm texting my editor right now. Bro.
It was already in the Washington Post this morning and People Magazine yesterday. So Celine Song meeting me ever is never going to happen. That's okay. She already did her matchmaking movie. And then the third thing, and this is critical. This is the most important part of the formula in a rom-com 2025 after, like post 2025, is it has to be written and directed by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. That's the most important thing. I mean, I swear this woman is a genius in understanding, like, the complexity of romance, that sometimes you don't get what you want. And I'll take Shonda Rhimes' honorable mention. That's what it is, though. You're a screenwriter? You gonna write me a movie?
Yeah, I will. You want one?
You know, I've been offered a reality TV show a lot of times, and everyone thinks they're so unique. The title is always the same. I've yet to be offered a different one. It's always My Big Fat Greek Matchmaker.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm always like to the producers, I'm like, I'm not a Greek matchmaker. I'm a matchmaker who is Greek, but you know, I get Aliza was Jewish matchmaker and Seema was Indian. I understand that, but a third of my clients are South Asian.
There's a lot of them in the book. I was like, wow.
Greek, you know what it is? It's Greek moms and South Asian moms come from the same tree.
Yeah.
Just different branches. So when they meet me, they're like, she gets it, and she doesn't look like my auntie.
So it's fine. It's a safe space. Yeah.
Safe space. Yeah. Cool. Did you notice that, huh?
I've clocked it. Yeah, I clocked it. I thought it was just like a Jersey thing, but all right.
No, I mean, oh, wow. Yeah. Do you guys know this? Oh, New Jersey has, like, I grew up in Little Bombay. That's like what it's called.
Yeah.
That's not my town, but like that's what we call Middlesex County. And my child is actually a minority in his school. It's predominantly Indian. So, and that's how I grew up too. I grew up in a predominantly, like, you know, not predominantly, it's like 34% black, 34% white, 30% Indian. So just one last thing, because this is funny. When I graduated high school, because there were so many, everyone's a Gujarati, so everyone's like Patel or Singh. Because there were so many in my class, they put us in height order. So you wouldn't hear like 27 Patels right after the other. Yeah, so also that's another selling point when like a South Asian person comes in, I'm like, I'm from Middlesex County.
Yeah, it's like, got it.
Yeah. My husband's an engineer.
Well, great. Well, Maria, thank you so much.
Stereotypes can be fun.
Yeah, that's what we're going to end on. Hell yeah, bro. Yeah. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Yeah.
Can I just say one last thing? So a lot of you DM'd me about what are we doing after this? And I know that some of you, many of you, are staying after for the Friends speed making. I think that's incredible. If you did that, if you book those tickets, do that. We will be waiting for you at the Rocket Bar. I will change shoes for that. I heard it's a divey bar, but that's fine because they got shuffleboard, they've got darts and hoops or whatever. I'm going to head over there later, and if you want to come, and if you're at the friend thing, come after that. Stay here for that, and then come after, and we'll meet you there. That's good if we do it in like segments, because then not everyone's at the bar at the same time. So let's do this smart. You know? Anyway, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much to Matchmaker Maria and Andrew Limbong, and thank you all for joining us.